Guys, as promised, I'm going to drop the link. Anyone wants to join me on this late night impromptu chat, let me know. We're going to talk about everything going on in the sport of boxing, including Jaime Munguia coming up a cropper on ESPN. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Vashon Holdings proudly presents Warweek Radio Chats with ring announcer Joseph Herron.
Wow, guys, Merry Christmas. Yeah, I tell you what, the theater of the unexpected is alive and well in the sport of boxing. And guys, I want to thank you guys, for anyone who's joining me from Boxing Gems. I just came from that chat. I'll tell you what, I joined them late, and I still felt like talking. Yeah. I want to give a big shout out to my brother, Round One. Good to see you, my friend. And also my brother, Jesus M. Joe, I said Munguia is a bum. Well, look, man, he never corrected his defensive flaws. And now we all know why Golden Boy pulled the trigger on that Canelo fight. Because what else are you going to do with him at this point? He's not getting any better. He didn't do anything to improve his defensive lapses. And you knew with all of the punishment that he takes per fight, that rock was eventually gonna break. And we just saw it tonight, guys. A guy who had 4 knockouts on his record, Bruno Sarachi from France, cracks him with a perfect overhand right, and down goes Munguia. I'll tell you what, congratulations and Merry Christmas to anyone who put some long green on Sarachi. Yeah, yeah, what an upset is right. I'll tell you what, guys, and this is why we watch the theater of the unexpected. And you can't say that Golden Boy didn't take their time with the kid. They gave him every opportunity to get better. And they figured out, oh, shit, we're lucky that he didn't get knocked out by that war against Derevyanchenko. And, well, let's just face it, as soon as he got knocked down by Canelo, he was carried by Canelo Alvarez. You saw the writing on the wall, guys. This should not be a big shock to anybody. This is a big upset, but you knew it was eventually going to happen. Rosado will KO Bumlanga. Are they really talking about that fight? Gabe Rosado versus Edgar Berlanga? Chingao. Munguia versus Fake Nello, a war. Oh, boy. Sachi Payton versus Finnick. Oh, come on, guys. No. Curiel got robbed. I couldn't care less. Oh, Chingao. Look, guys. All I have to say is this. Guys like Munguia, this is why it's like, look, why do you need tune-ups? Why do you need all of these fights in the interim of taking on a big money fight, a big money assignment? If you don't have any defense, you're eventually going to get cracked. And that rock of a chin is eventually going to get cracked. It's only a matter of time, right? Like our brother James Gogi, which will be on tomorrow evening, like he stated so eloquently, if you fight the way Jaime Munguia fights, you're gonna have a short but glorious career. It's only a matter of time before that chin cracks and you don't have that kind of punch resistance any longer. W.A.W, welcome to the show, sir. Good to see you, my friend. 25-5 with only 4 KOs. They picked a non-puncher for a big homecoming celebration. Yep. Did you see Eric Morales in the audience? Yep. Destroyed him. Yep. Worst part, it was right in front of Chavez and Eric Morales. I think this is one of the worst trainer switches in the history of boxing. Respect to the Frenchman, but this was an incredibly bad deal. Yep. And all the while, Golden Boy is laughing their ass off. Saying, why do you think we pulled the trigger on the Canelo fight? Why do you think we did? Because we knew after that Derevyanchenko war, yeah, he wasn't going to be the same. Canelo didn't want to be the one to flatten Jaime Munguia or the fellow countryman. Yeah. Guys, tranquilo. Although, yeah, I would probably agree, Jesus. You probably do have more power than Sirachi. Yeah. Chingao, guys. I have to tell you guys. And once again, this is the theater of the unexpected. Rafael, welcome to the show, sir. Upset, great night of boxing, all 3 cards. Yes, sir. MJ Akhmadaliev had a great performance after a year off. Yes, sir. And now he's calling out because he's not a big ticket seller anywhere. He's calling out, who do you think? Naoya Inoue. Yeah, like that's going to happen. You know, it may. I don't know. It may. But look, you're going to have to go to Japan and you're going to have to improve that defense. He thinks that he's a strong enough puncher that he'll be able to touch the chin of, and look, let's just face it, guys. When you're at this level, you're going to get hit by your opponent. Does he take on MJ Akhmadaliev? Well, we'll see. But right now, he's making a shit ton of money in Japan fighting nobodies. But he just signed a deal with Turki Al-Sheikh. In my opinion, Turki Al-Sheikh makes MJ Akhmadaliev versus Naoya Inoue. And would that be the biggest threat to Naoya Inoue at this time outside of Junto Nakatani moving up in weight? Yes, it would be, because he can punch. But would I favor Naoya Inoue? Yes, I would. But MJ Akhmadaliev, he's going to have to get in shape. He's going to have to come in the same shape he did tonight. Hold on, let's see this. Come on, Joe. People in fake Nello lover zombie. What? Oh, saying that Munguia. Look, it was entertaining, but it's obvious, and everyone in the business agrees, including Ronnie Shields, including James Gogi, including Rick Glazier, that Canelo carried Jaime Munguia after he got knocked down in the 5th. He carried him just like he carried Edgar Berlanga. Edgar Berlanga, he signed that silent agreement with himself. Just like Jaime Munguia. Well, Jaime Munguia kept trying to fight. But Canelo has a good enough defense that, yeah, he didn't care. He understood that he could have knocked out Jaime Munguia after he went down. And he carried him. Now, Edgar Berlanga just clammed up. Didn't fight until the last 2 rounds. By that time, the fight was over. Double L, a rematch clause for Jaime Munguia? No, because they didn't think this was possible. And why would you want a rematch clause with someone who doesn't have a title? This wasn't a title fight. This was supposed to be a glorious homecoming. The Kerry excuses now surfaces. No. This has been, dude, when we talked to Gogi and Ronnie Shields the following week after the Canelo fight, they said exactly that. It's not an excuse. Who gives a shit? Do we make excuses on this channel? No. We don't care. We've got nothing to gain or lose by stating the truth. I don't care. I'm not doing this for clicks and money. Who cares? Look, Canelo is at the point of his career, and it really pisses me off. It's one of the things that I often criticize what's wrong with our beloved boxing business. It's obvious, Jesus, that Canelo's at the point of his career where he feels like it doesn't, he doesn't have to prove anything to anybody. Kind of like the position where Anthony Joshua is in, right? Protected ticket sellers. He's his own brand. That's why he didn't fight David Benavidez, to the dismay of all the Canelo nut huggers. It's obvious why he didn't. He's not taking on any 50-50 assignments at this stage of his career. And he hasn't for a while. He's never moving up to 175 again, so you can get that Beterbiev Bivol assignment out of your head. And he would never take on Morrell or Benavidez. He is going to just fight the who's who of 68, because let's just face it, the list isn't very long. Was he going to fight Christian Mbili? A one-armed Derevyanchenko already showed that guy's not in the same league as Canelo Alvarez, not even a past his prime Canelo Alvarez. Who's going to fight? So this is the stage where Canelo Alvarez is at, guys. There's no excuses, Jesus. Everyone knows that Canelo Alvarez is avoiding the best available opposition at this stage of his career. And we've stated that for a very long time. And it's what's wrong with the business of boxing. Rather than giving that torchbearer assignment to a hungry, most deserving up-and-coming attraction, he's going to just fight the path of least resistance. And that's it. Scuba Steve, welcome to the show, sir. SSC, how you doing, my brother? Merry Christmas to you, my friend. And we have we're printing new Roshi shirts, as well as we're doing the finishing touches of our latest EP. And both are going to be going out to you, my friend. Thank you for being here, my brother. What happened to Munguia? Who's next for him? After this, I don't know. He might just retire. Because who can he fight? And once again, I stated in the outset of the show, this is why I always encourage everyone, like Teofimo Lopez, Jerron Boots Ennis, Mario Barrios, Brian Norman Jr., everybody, Devin Haney, Tank Davis. Dude, fight if you're gonna fight in the ring sporadically twice a year, then take on the biggest money assignments. If you're already an established attraction, take on the available best, the biggest money fights available to you, and quit pricing yourself out. Quit pricing yourselves out, because this is the world-class stage. And anytime you step in the ring, there's always that chance, especially if you have no defense like Jaime Munguia. You're going to get cracked. A guy with 4 knockouts, perfectly timed overhand right, lands right on the chin. And for what? Little to no money. That's it. He should have fought Berlanga. Too many cherries for Munguia. He finally choked on one. Hey, brother Tyrese, how are you doing, my friend? Well, yeah, and once again, this is attributed to all of the wear and tear he's had in coming up. And Golden Boy, like I stated, gave him every opportunity to get better. He never improved his defensive lapses. He tried to implement a jab. He tried to use footwork. But he never really improved that defense. He never had that deep amateur pedigree. He was consistently just learning on the job. And once again, that's why Golden Boy Promotions laughing their ass off right now. That's why they pulled the trigger on the Canelo Alvarez fight, because they knew he wasn't getting any better, and now was the time to do it. Otherwise, you run the risk of him getting knocked out by a guy like Sergey Derevyanchenko. In my opinion, that fight single-handedly took years off of Jaime Munguia's career. Yeah. Munguia versus Charlo next. Shit. Honestly, you might see that. I doubt it, though. I doubt it. This is going to take a lot of money out of that division. Yep. Fernando Beltran. That's right. W.A.W once again has the beat. His stock at close to 0 right now. Jerry said it best. Bad fundamentals. Yep. Dude, it shows you. They had no... ESPN didn't even have faith in Top Rank, didn't even have faith in this card. Who did they give the assignment to call the fight to? Chris Algerian, forgive me, I forget her name. We came up in the business at the exact same time. The chick that does the interviews for Top Rank, or used to. Now she's making the calls on the B-level assignments. That says it all. That says it all now, doesn't it? Yeah. Well, look, I had him losing going into the final round, and then he gets the knockdown. And I scored it just like I scored the Triple G fight, 6 rounds apiece, with the knockdown in the final round. Derevyanchenko, man, that's a guy with the worst luck of any fighter who has that long amateur pedigree and elite level skill set. He has the worst luck. And he may go down in the history of the modern era as one of the best technical fighters to never win a world title in this 4-title era in which they're giving titles away, right? Tell you what. Oh, boy. Never ever thought I'd say this, but Charlo might knock out Munguia. Guys, it's a pleasure to introduce my brother from Boxing Gems, Joey. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, Joseph. How are you?
Oh, I tell you what, man. It's good of you to stay up with us, man. And look, yeah, everyone's still freaking out about the Jaime Munguia thing. But once again, Golden Boy, the writing was on the wall. Eric Gomez is a very smart guy. And there's a reason why they pulled the trigger on that Canelo Alvarez pay-per-view. because they knew he wasn't going to get any better, and he hadn't been getting any better. And they saw the war that he was in against Sergey Derevyanchenko and said, yeah, well, look, that fight probably shaved years off of his career. And we better pull the trigger now before he gets beaten and embarrassed and knocked out. And lo and behold, they're laughing all the way to the bank. Joey, your thoughts on this, what everyone's calling a just horrific upset for both Top Rank and Fernando Beltran?
I mean, we all knew that Jaime Munguia was a ticking time bomb. He was gonna get beat eventually by anybody, by another fighter outside of Canelo. But I was hoping that it would be up against a top opponent, perhaps Christian and Billy, a Caleb Plant, someone notable for where it would have been excused and understood. Even his last fight against Bosnian, a long reigning super middleweight contender.
He
But
was getting jobbed until he pulled that one out of the bag.
yeah, but this fight in Tijuana, Mexico, this was literally Jaime Munguia's. I told Gems, I said he's not going to lose this fight unless this guy with little to no knockouts puts him on the canvas, lights out. That's the only way he has a shot. And surprisingly, that's exactly what took place.
Yeah, well, this is a theater of the unexpected, like we stated on Jem's show, and God bless it. You know, that's why we watch. That's why we watch. The theater of the unexpected is alive and well. And once again, the writing was on the wall in the immortal words of Eddie Futch. If you fight like Jaime Munguia, well, he didn't say Jaime Munguia, but if you fight like him, well, you're going to have a short but glorious career. If you don't work on your defense and you don't get any better, and you continue to block punches with your face, yeah, that resistance is eventually going to erode, and that rock of your chin is eventually going to get cracked. He's done. He's done.
Just when it's the funny thing is just when Top Rank had just added him into their fold too.
Well, I'll tell you who is laughing all the way to the bank is Eric Gomez and Oscar De La Hoya.
Oh yeah, no, they got everything
that's
they
the reason
needed.
why they pulled the assignment. And W.A.W has the beat. Hey, you called it, Joe. You saw his limitations against Bazinian. You got to say his name in the Teddy Atlas voice, or else it just doesn't sound right. And look, that's what I'm saying. They should have pulled the trigger on the Edgar Berlanga fight already. Or Christian Mbili. They're trying to generate him into a ticket, although they're working now with Eye of the Tiger management. They should have put him in the ring with Christian Mbili. Like you said it, Joey. It raises the stock of Christian Mbili. Now, you're talking about cannon fodder. You're talking about damaged goods.
If I'm in Billy, I mean, if there was even a chance in hell that this fight was going to take place, considering they were both on the same side of the street, I'm pissed.
Yeah.
Because this was a breakout fight, potential breakout fight for him, and now it's not even on the table anymore.
Yep, that's it. And once again, let's focus our attention to that mammoth card, brother. Now, we once again, we know what we're going to see in the main event. Okay? Let me get your take, though, Joey, because I haven't spoken to you about this since it was announced. The rematch of Arthur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. Is there anything that Dmitry Bivol can do better than he did the first time?
Absolutely. Well, for starters, the one thing he can do to minimize Beterbeev's success was, well, the most obvious thing, clinch. I mean, staying in a high guard, letting Beterbiev hit around your gloves. I mean, even if all those punches aren't landing, you're not throwing. And the judges can't see every punch that lands and doesn't. And even if they do, what they also see is you're not controlling the action. Like, you're not preventing Beterbiev from, you're not slowing down his offense. You're not taking away his volume. You're just blocking punches. It's hit and not get hit, but that hit part matters too. And if you're not doing that, you're letting Beterbiev either steal rounds or just win them solely on activity. So if he can do that, that alone can make a big impact in the fight.
Well, that's easier said than done, Joey, because if you look at the first fight, he fell into that trap and had trouble trying to tie up Arthur Beterbiev because he's consistently letting his hands go. It's
Yeah, but
funny. It's like when you look at two fighters falling into a clinch, it takes two to tango. And most of the time, fighters are willing to concede to a clinch and reset, and they shouldn't, and it drives me nuts. But when you don't have a willing participant like Arthur Beterbiev, as you go back and look in that 11th round, in which I thought it was over, Beterbiev obviously hurt Dmitry Bivol, and he was trying to tie him up, and Beterbiev wasn't having any part of it, and bopped him from pillar to post. It's Beterbiev, even at his accelerated age, is a strong MF. In my opinion, Joey, and let me get your opinion about this. Unlike the first fight, Dmitry Bivol cannot get greedy and admire his own work. He can't, if he lands a couple of shots, he needs to get right out of dodge and keep turning the monster. Unlike the first fight, whenever he got too greedy, he paid the price. And that's when Arthur Beterbiev started to have his best moments.
because what I saw in that fight is this man, Artur Beterbiev, is the embodiment, the definition of heavy-handed. For those who don't know
Yep.
it, like people confuse being a power puncher with being heavy-handed. Gervonta
Mm-hmm.
St. Davis is a power puncher. His
Yep.
power comes from his athleticism, his timing, and his accuracy. But then you have Artur Beterbiev, who knocked Dmitry Bivol half across the ring. Mind you, he was still on his feet with a jab. That's what he got hit with in the 7th round. And when Bivol, like you said, was taking a little more than he should have, and he got caught in between, and then Beterbiev caught him, stopped Bill right in his tracks, and put him on complete defense mode, and let Beterbiev rally and steal that round and the momentum of that fight going forward.
Mm-hmm.
He
In
has
my
that type
opinion,
of power.
yep, he's got that kind of sick. He doesn't. It's a lot like Vitaly Klitschko. And remember Vitaly Klitschko, how great he was back in the day in his prime?
Of
It's like
course.
the only two fights that he lost, he was winning at the time of the stoppage on both fights on the scorecards. And you can count on one hand outside of those two fights. Let it go as Chris Bird. You can count on one hand how many rounds he actually lost because he didn't bother loading up on any one shot. It was that steady drop that fills the bucket, that philosophy, because he had the gift of those heavy hands that you're referring to.
Hmm.
And he knew that it was just an accumulation that, well, if I can take this guy into the late rounds, yeah, he's going to start feeling the pain. It's that accumulated effort. So I'm asking you, Joey, can he win a rematch when he's facing a guy who has a larger volume, doesn't have to load up on any one shot, and is going to hurt you as the fight goes on? He's the aggressor. He's going to throw more punches, and it's that accumulated effort. Can he win a decision again? Can,
Can Beterbiev win a decision again?
no, Dmitry Bivol, can he win a decision this time? My apologies. I should have said it like that.
No, you're fine. Like I said, I mean, even in the end, let's say, because as you said later on, I think it was a big factor would be that he was hurt in that 11th round. That's why he couldn't clinch Beterbiev properly. Bivol is not known to be a clincher throughout his career to begin with. So if he were to do this, this would still be kind of a learning curve for him. So asking him to suddenly do that against one of the not just hardest punchers, but one of the stronger fighters, Beterbiev is also a physical, like, presence in the ring for where he just he's not going to allow you to clinch this so easily. So ask it's uh, uh, to me personally, I look at this fight the same way how I looked at the last one. I still consider it 50-50. Can
Mm-hmm.
Bivol win it? It's possible. But if he takes more chances, that also increases the odds of Beterbiev potentially doing what he didn't do in the first fight, and that's end the fight before it gets to
Yep.
the final bell.
Yep. I'll tell you what, I agree on all points. In my opinion, He needs to adopt the same mentality that Sugar Ray Leonard adopted in the No Mas rematch with Roberto Duran. Stick and move. Don't sit there and admire your work. Don't take the bait and bang it out with him in the pocket. Land the 1-2 and then turn him. And keep the action in the center of the ring. Keep turning the bull. Once again, I'm going to quote Eddie Futch. A bull can't fight in circles. Why are you getting on the ropes? And once again, it's easier said than done, because when you have a guy like Arthur Baturbia, who was cutting off the ring and closing the distance very effectively as early as round 1 and 2, it's easier said than done. But you have to. You can't get caught in the ropes. You can't get caught in the pocket admiring your own work, being too greedy. You've got to adopt the same mentality that Sugar Ray Leonard adopted in the rematch with Roberto Duran. Can he do it for 12 rounds? Can he do it? In my opinion, he's going to have to if he has a chance of making it out and seeing the final bell and having a chance on the judges' scorecards. Now, let's go to the co-main event, my friend. We started talking about this, and I dub it as Meth Dealer versus Autistic Power. Joseph Parker versus Daniel Dynamite Dubois, the incumbent IBF champion. And once again, just in case no one heard it on Boxing Gems, you stated very, very eloquently why no one should consider Anthony Joshua a big willow for not taking this and jumping into an immediate rematch, because that's a fight that Turki Al-Sheikh wanted. But he doesn't need Turki Al-Sheikh, unlike all of these other guys. He doesn't need Turki Al-Sheikh to actually make money.
Mm-hmm.
And so your thoughts on Anthony Joshua not taking the bait and getting into an incumbent rematch, or a rematch with the incumbent and reigning champion, Daniel Dynamite Dubois?
He's done it twice. I mean, he did it against Alexander Usyk and Andy Ruiz Jr. So the only reason as to why people could be surprised or disappointed could be, well, it's expected from AJ because he's done it in the past. So we just assume that he would differently. The difference is, though, in the first fight against Andy Ruiz, that was a huge, unimaginable upset. The fight with Danny Dubois, although AJ was a favorite, he wasn't a massive one. It was always possible for Dubois to get the stoppage over him. It just wasn't likely. But when it happened and the way he got knocked out, unlike with Ruiz, he was still on his feet. With Dubois, he was laid out. It was that could potentially be a career-ending, career-changing knockout. So excuse AJ if he's not, or Eddie Hearn if they're not in a rush to immediately put him in there when there is a huge looming fight with Tyson Fury, win, lose, or draw against Usyk that can potentially be on the table.
Agreed. And you know what? That's very, very well stated. I couldn't have said it any better. And so who do you like in Autistic Power versus Meth Crackhead Dealer?
I would slightly favor Dubois, but I do think Joseph Parker has the means to potentially outbox him and last 12 rounds with him.
You know what? I will say this. All credit to my brother, Andy Lee. I met him when he was still working with Emmanuel Stewart. And he was very, very intelligent, understood all of the X's and O's, but this is a guy who was a gym fighter. And Joey, for anyone who doesn't understand that term, please explain what a gym fighter means.
Oh, by gym fighter, are you referring to a gym rat?
I'm referring to a guy who looks great in the gym, but not under the spotlight of the big stage. That was Andy Lee. Even Jermaine Taylor back in the day didn't like sparring with Andy Lee in the Kronk, because he's like, man, where did you find this big southpaw cracker with heavy hands? And Andy Lee was that guy who fought up or down to his level of opposition. But in the gym, well, he was the baddest dude in the ring, baddest middleweight anyway. Hold on, before we move forward, hold on. Say hello to our dear friend 93 Octane. Good to see you, my friend. And Joey, this is for you. Is this more an indictment on Munguia, or is it an indictment of Canelo's opponent selection?
I've already seen reports on this on many news or boxing news reports.
Yeah. Fans will be fans, brother.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I don't even want to go as far as say. I mean, we knew how Munguia was being moved throughout his career prior to the Canelo fight. He was being fed, particular fighters because at the end of the day, they knew the level that he was at. That's why they put him in the Canelo fight knowing damn well he wasn't ready for it. He had no
that's it.
chance in that fight. But
Yep.
they cashed him out before, either he loses to Canelo and we make the biggest possible bag on him, or
Yep.
he
Gomez
loses
is
to
Eric Gomez, a very smart man.
yeah, or he loses in Tijuana in a fight for which everybody in the world thought he had little to no chance to lose, and let the biggest upset in the of the year take place.
I tell you what, I feel bad for Fernando Beltran and Top Rank especially. They just took this assignment on.
Yeah,
And look,
yeah.
Brad Goodman gave him a layup. Gave him a layup in his hometown. Hey, the Theater of the Unexpected. I want to say hello to our dear friend, Sid UK. Good to see you, my friend. Damn, I just found out Jaime Munguia lost. He's still young, and I think he needed to change trainers and improve for some time. Yep. Hope he returns stronger because he has a heart, just no brain. That's right. So, what are the chances of him getting better, Joey?
Oh
Look,
no, I think
he's
he's not.
already been cultivated and nurtured. This is why we talked about Golden Boy Promotions giving him every opportunity to get better. They just didn't, they just never saw it. And at this stage of his career,
Guys, he's
with that
28.
punch resistance being shattered, is he going to get better? Can he get better? Joey, your
Now,
final thoughts, because we're going to move forward.
guys, he's 27, 28 years old, and his style has not improved anymore. The moment we saw him up against a live body, which was Deryevchenko, who's already been in several wars with several top level fighters, he went life and
Mm-hmm.
death and arguably lost in the majority of most people's opinions. If not for that 12th round, he probably would have lost that fight. And this is once again a Deryevchenko who was battle tested beyond belief, who and still gave Munguia by far the hardest fight of his life. He was never going to improve.
You're right.
That fight was probably a wake up call for Golden Boy, saying we need to speed this up.
You know what? Before you came on the air, I said the exact same thing. Thank you for being here, my friend. I also want to say hello to my brother Refugio. Good to see you, my brother. Merry Christmas to you, man. If I don't talk to you before then. He said Munguia wants to bang all the time, but doesn't have the classic granite Mexican chin. He used to.
I
He
wouldn't
used to,
agree.
Joey.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree with that because it wasn't up until this year he got dropped, let alone stopped. Prior to that, Munguia was had a chin beyond belief, but as any chin, it wears down if you keep taking punishment like that.
That's it.
Like I'm sorry to say, he got hit with. Although this man has 4 knockouts, I already said this. If you get hit with the right punch at the right time in the right
Mm-hmm.
area, there's a very good chance you get knocked down, whether they're a puncher or not.
Yep. Guys, this is the world-class stage. And if you've got that technique and if you time it perfectly, hey, man, it can shake your brain. Okay? You can shake your brain. Anyone who's human can have their brain shaken, guys. Come on now. I've seen it in the gym, and we continue to see it in the professional ring. Jeez. But I tell you what, let's go back to the co-main event. In my opinion, I was talking about Andy Lee. Andy Lee has done a superb job putting Humpty Dumpty back together again. Because the knock on Joseph Parker before the Riyadh season events, his big knock was he's a B-level champion. To
Correct.
where anytime he stepped up in competition, he always looked to be afraid of letting his hands go. And after he got his clock cleaned by the juggernaut, Joe Joyce, we thought that was all she wrote. But Andy Lee has done a superb job in choosing guys who were either um 5-round fighters or shot guys. In my
There ain't that.
opinion, okay, and I'm referring to Deontay Wilder and Shalay Zhang. So this is going to be the real litmus test of where Joseph Parker is, in my opinion. Everyone was impressed with Joseph Parker. I'm saying that's facade, guys. And I'm saying that Daniel Dubois catches him in the mid to late rounds and knocks his ass out. Because this is a young, hungry, newly crowned champion who is brimming with confidence. Now, if you want to test his resume and his path of progress with Daniel Dubois, look at his level of competition leading up to the Anthony Joshua fight. And this is why I called the upset. I said, look, you look at the path of progress that Daniel Dubois has taken after the Usyk loss. And one could argue that he actually knocked out Alexander Usyk. If it weren't for Luis Pavon calling that a low blow, but we're not going to go there right now. But look who he fought after that. Honestly, I love Daniel Dubois in this fight. Autistic power. And because of his autism, you're not going to be able to get into his head in the pre-fight. I think Joseph Parker is going to be exposed in this. What say you, Joey?
I personally love this fight. I wanted Dubois versus Parker more than anybody else, more than Zhang, Caballel, even Bacoli, simply because I looked at these as two fighters coming off of tremendous comebacks. Yes, like you said, with context, obviously Dubois' comeback is better than Parker's, but nonetheless, like nobody expected. Parker was still a significant underdog against Wilder and Zhang because of his previous performances and where he was at this stage of his career, who he was beaten by, how he got brutalized by Joe Joyce. He's just surprised everyone, and Daniel Dubois doing the same thing, absolutely destroying Anthony Joshua. So seeing two great UK fighters off of terrific comebacks, it's a nice story. So even though I do favor the younger, fresher, and like just off of more momentum Daniel Dubois in that fight, I'm not gonna knock. I'm not gonna say Joseph Parker has no chance, but I wouldn't favor him at all.
Yeah, hey, look, this is a live fight. As we just saw, guys, anytime you pit fighters opposite each other on the world-class stage in the heavyweight division, yeah, anyone can get knocked out and anyone could pull off the upset. These are two top 10 guys. But I like Daniel Dubois in this fight against the meth dealer. Yes, I said it. Let's move on to the next one, shall we? Do you have time for that, brother?
Of course.
Okay, very good. Thank you for being here, my friend. Carlos Adames taking on Hamzat Shiraz, defending his WBC title. Yeah, obviously, Turkey Al Sheikh loves this fight. And what is Carlos Adames going to do for the first time fighting a guy who has the lengthy height and reach advantage opposite him in the ring?
Honest to God, Joseph, I am actually that's one of my assignments that I will be.
Oh, so you don't want to talk about it right now. That's fine. Let's move on then.
I I will say this much pre film study. All I would go as far as saying is that I think that fight is. I love that fight on paper.
Yep.
It's a tremendous fight. It's a huge
Yep.
step up for Shiraz, and it's a great fight for Adames.
So without going into your style matchup, without your tail of the tape, without your tape study, will we see the best of Carlos Adames or Hamza Shiraz?
I would probably pre-film study. I'd probably lean Shiraz. I think it's his time personally. Like I think Carlos Adames is a good fighter, but I've noticed some flaws within his game. I wasn't very impressed with his last performance. And when he fought in June, I didn't think, considering the level of opposition, what was expected of him, I thought he underperformed in comparison to Shiraz, who's looked great this year.
I agree wholeheartedly, brother. I think, yeah, Carlos Adames is going to have a lot of trouble being assertive and taking the lead in this fight. And unfortunately, he's going to have to against the, well, lengthy and very tall Hamza Shiraz. I think you're right. I think this is Hamza Shiraz's time. And for more intangibles than, of course, your film study. But I can't wait to see that, man. Guys, if you
Yeah,
haven't already subscribed to Boxing Gems, please go do that at this time. And please contribute and become a member. And yeah, pay the little fee to see their Patreon page. That's where you get all the good stuff, guys. And there it is. We'll move on. Oh, jeez. Can we get this out of the way first, please?
yeah.
Shakur Stevenson versus Floyd Schofield. Can we get that out of the way before we move
So,
forward?
so out of every fight that's on this card, this is the only fight that can't possibly be considered a toss-up pick'em or
Yeah.
something that this is this is a clown fight. Let's be honest. It's a great fight for Shakur in the sense that it's a it's in the sense that it is a fight with a name that people recognize, but that's about as far as it goes. It's a good return fight considering he's coming off of an injury.
So why did Golden Boy Promotions pull the trigger for Floyd Schofield?
Oh, unless there's more to it than that, I imagine it's because Floyd Schofield and his father insisted and were pushing for the fight regardless of whether or not they were advised not to.
And so do you believe the idea that William Zepeda had a hand injury and that's why he didn't take the Shakur Stevenson fight? Or was it because Tevin Farmer exposed everything that we knew going into the suggested Shakur Stevenson fight? Because remember on Boxing Gems, we both stated that William Zepeda has the style and the defensive deficiencies to make Shakur Stevenson look like the second coming of Floyd Mayweather Jr.
Yeah. Well, all I will say is this: I find it mighty ironic that after Shakur Schofield got announced, it appeared that Zepeda doesn't look like he's going to need surgery and will be fine in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I stated as much a couple weeks ago. Or last week, I think, when this was announced. But look, I will say this. Business has everything to do with the fact that they pulled the trigger on this Floyd Schofield event. They used the same mentality when making the Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Canelo fight. Don Chargan, he was Canelo's senior advisor when I was working with him at the time. And that's who I learned the business from. The great Don Chargan. God rest his soul. And he stated, you know what? I don't like this fight. You're not ready. You're going to lose. But I know you're not going to be embarrassed because he's not going to knock you out, a la Jaime Munguia. And you will understand what you need to work on. It'll put a spotlight on your deficiencies. And we'll know how to move you forward from here. In my opinion, because if you didn't know, I'm talking to people listening. If you didn't know, that's who taught Eric Gomez and Oscar De La Hoya the business, as well as Roberto Diaz, is the great Don Chargan, the same guy who taught me. And in my opinion, they're taking from the Don Chargan playbook. You're not going to get knocked out. You're not going to be embarrassed, but you're going to lose. But we'll know exactly how to move you forward from here. In your opinion, Joey, is that what Golden Boy is doing with this assignment?
Oh, I mean, this fight right here, win, lose, or draws, Floyd Schofield doesn't lose anything from this. He has a built-in excuse. His resume is completely he's untested, and he's 22 years old. He has no experience anywhere near this level. His best opposition is fighters coming up in weight to face him, and who recently put him on the canvas. I mean, no one in their right minds thinks that he has a chance outside of a miraculous shot against the best defensive fighter in boxing, that he's actually going to win that fight. And they're not betting on that. They're betting on the fact that win, lose, it doesn't matter. It's Shakur Stevenson. No one's expecting it. So as long as you don't get decimated against a fighter who is not known for doing that in the first place, you should be fine.
That's it. That's it exactly. Very well stated. And Rafael has the beat here. Schofield has Joan Guzman training him. Yep, and Ronnie Shields. Joan Guzman, he resides out of Houston. He also works with Jermel and Jermal Charlo as well. Joan Guzman, do you remember him, Joey?
Yeah, as a fighter, of course.
Oh gosh, the guy who could never make weight. But look, you can't argue that he was an athletic specimen and had great defensive skill. He was just a guy who couldn't have the discipline to quit ballooning up between fights. But at one point in time, he was considered an elite guy. And he's exercising that with Schofield. But look, you're not going to be able to prepare for a guy like Shakur. I don't care who you are. You could get Angelo Dundee, Eddie Futch, and the great Georgie Benton from the grave. And they're not going to be able to prepare you for Shakur in one camp. Joey, help me out here.
There's just too many levels between Schofield and Shakur, not just in terms of ability, but just in experience. Shakur is a 3-division champion, regardless of what people want to say. He's been against some of the top fighters in the sport on numerous occasions since he was Floyd Schofield's age. That's what people don't understand. When Shakur Stevenson was Schofield's age, he was being tested more. When he was Floyd Schofield's age, he was 10-0, 11-0, fighting Christopher Diaz, preparing for an eventual title fight against Joet Gonzalez. That's real contenders and top fighters within his weight class. And the only reason why he was moved like that was because of his high pedigree and his performance throughout the amateurs, in particular the Olympics. Schofield doesn't come from that background, nor does he possess that pedigree, which is why he's been moved the way he is.
Very well stated once again. Couldn't have said it any better. Want to give a big shout out to my brother, G Funky Boxy. Hey, brother, Merry Christmas, my friend. I tell you what, if you haven't already, please go subscribe to my brother, G Funky. Love you, brother. Sid UK. Schofield versus Shakur will be a great nap for me. I have no doubt. Well, fortunately for Schofield, it won't be a nap for him. And that's why they chose this fight.
Well, personally for me, I think the thing about this fight, one thing that I thought was a little bit alarming is that Floyd Schofield is not a Canelo Alvarez or even a Jaime Munguia in the sense that he has been durable throughout the majority of his career. In his last fight, we saw that he's not particularly all that durable. This fighter he fought right here, I believe, had 19 wins, 9 or 10 of them coming by knockout, and came from a lower weight class that one severely hurt him in the 3rd round and dropped him in the 11th. I mean, although Shakur Stevenson is not known to be a significant puncher, but what people like, and I've noticed this statistic myself simply because I follow all these fighters outside of this year for which he suffered an injury. From the time for which he debuted as a pro till 2023, Shakur Stevenson has recorded either a knockdown or a stoppage within every year that he's competed in. So guys, although he may not be a finisher, make no mistake, Shakur Stevenson does possess some level of power. He's not Devin Haney.
That's right. That's true. He's a very athletically gifted kid. Unfortunately, because of his dad's ego, he has never, even though they've got Ronnie Shields to be a trophy trainer on the day of the fight, they have never spent an entire camp at the Sugarland gym with Ronnie Shields, getting in that heavy work that only can be found at the elite level gyms. And so this is going to be the very first time he trains a full camp with Ronnie and Joan Guzman. So we'll see what happens, because he's an athletic specimen with heavy hands. But once again, this is just way too much to ask of the kid. but he's going to find out the hard way. School's going to be in session when the bell rings. Well, let's go to the next one, brother, shall we? And look. His last assignment, I will say this. Rene Theus, tough piece of meat, heavy-handed. He's the guy who knocked out Carlos Balderas, if you guys forgot. Right? And
Right.
that's why they chose that assignment, Golden Boy Promotions. I think actually Rick Glazier even picked the opponent, Rene Theus. Because they knew, you were going to... we were going to get some questions answered about Floyd Schofield in that assignment.
But
But let's move
I
on,
think,
shall we?
but just to add one more detail, Joseph, the
Yes, sir.
biggest issue with that fight that took place, that it wasn't even Floyd Schofield's questionable durability, but it's what is unquestionable about Floyd Schofield is that he fights like his age. He is a 22-year-old fighter. He does not have the temperament of a champion. As
Nope.
um, as he was clearly dominating that fight from boxing off of the outside, got behind an excellent jab and decided to forego that in order to engage in a slugfest with a pressure fighter whose best chance of beating you was catching you, and you gave that distance up. That is a clear lack of boxing IQ, which I think is going to play the biggest factor as to why he holds little to no chance against Shakur Stevenson.
Yep. That was very sporting of him, though, wasn't it?
Of course.
Oh, Chingao. I'll tell you what, let's move on. And this is one that I have a real problem with. Honestly, Virgil Ortiz Jr. should be fighting Sergey Boachuk in the rematch. Instead, a la Turkey al-Sheikh, via Turkey al-Sheikh, he wanted to pit Israel Madrimov versus Virgil Ortiz Jr. I have a real problem with Madrimov, right? Ducking out of the Sergey Boachuk fight. But look, you can't blame him. It was more money. And Virgil Ortiz deserves the opportunity, but I'm gutted for Sergey Boachuk, which we're going to see next Saturday anyway.
I think you would have beat Madrimov personally.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly, which is why we're seeing him against Virgil Ortiz. But hey, pick your poison. How do you want to get your ass whooped? In my opinion, Joey, I think the Virgil Ortiz very underrated lead hand against the counterpuncher is going to provide a lot of problems. He's not going to know when to get off. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joey.
I mean, with Virgil Ortiz, I think the biggest issue with him is that he does not know, for the most part, not does not know, but he struggles to change his pace. You know what you're getting from Virgil. You're always going to get a power punch, even a jab. He's always going to throw it hard, and he's going to throw it fast, which makes him easier to counterpunch, as we saw against Sergey Boachuk and other fighters like Kavalauskas. Fighting at the same pace eventually makes you predictable to counterpunchers. So that could also play a role that could work against him if he does not improve on that against Israel Madrimov.
That is a very good point because we saw him hurt ostensibly against a very prolific counterpuncher and a very avoided guy now in Igas Kavaliaskes. And we saw it against Sergey Boachuk, but for different reasons.
Correct.
Sergey Boachuk, you're right about that pace. He wasn't used to fighting at the rapid fire pace that Sergey Boachuk started from the outset. And just like going back to the Emmanuel Stewart triangle, when you combine speed with volume, you hinder your power. And it hindered Virgil Ortiz's power, but he's not going to have that same issue with Madrimov. Madrimov is just going to sit back and he's going to wait to counter him effectively like Igas Kavaliaskes. And in my opinion, it plays out almost identically to the Igas Kavaliaskes fight, with the lead hand giving him problems, fighting behind a more intelligent jab. Yeah, that's just my opinion. But that's why they fight the fights. We'll see how it plays out. Do you see Madrimov being a better counterpuncher and a smarter guy than Igas Kavaliaskes?
the biggest issue I have with Majimov that could get him in trouble with Virgil Ortiz, and just to for the record, I also am studying this fight, but I'm willing to talk about it because I'm actually intrigued about it. Is
Mm-hmm.
his foot is
Thank
his
you for
footwork.
that, by the way.
Of course. It's Majimov's footwork is gotta be some of the most frustrating. Is one of the most frustrating things I had to study throughout
Yeah.
2024,
Yep.
especially during the Terrence Crawford fight, for where
Oh,
I was just bored to death is just an understatement of what this man was doing. This fainting to no avail with nothing really behind it. I mean,
yep.
and and so that I think that's going to really be an issue with Majimov. His footwork is just problematic for where he can't get because Majimov, he's a fighter who likes to take a lot of angles, but unfortunately, his footwork is so flawed that he takes a lot more steps than other great fighters who use angles need in order to get there. So it takes him a lot more time, thus giving his opponent more of an opportunity to adjust and reset to that angle. So that could be problematic, especially against a fighter like Virgil Ortiz, who also is a great counterpuncher.
Yep. In my opinion, Madrimov is not going to have any answers for that sneaky straight right hand of Virgil Ortiz, and he's going to set it up beautifully with the intelligent jab, and he's never going to see the straight right hand coming. It's going to hurt Madrimov for the very first time in his entire career, and he's going to get flattened. Virgil Ortiz, if anything, is a great finisher if you give him the time to actually do his thing, which he never received at the hands of Sergey Boachuk, putting up that torrid pace from the very outset. I am more intrigued by a Sergey Boachuk rematch for Virgil Ortiz. Let's hope we get it eventually. I'm just
Oh,
gutted for Sergey Boachuk. That's a
yeah.
guy who's considered by everyone in the division to be more risk than reward.
Oh, yeah.
This is a
Well,
business after all. Go ahead,
well,
Joey.
I would say there's two fighters in that division that are now considered probably
Yep.
more risk than reward, and I'm sure you know who the other one is,
Mm-hmm.
as he
Yep.
just put a guy who, as he put Tim Zhu through hell.
Yeah, sending him in the same realm as Jaime Munguia.
Jesus.
Yep.
I would say honestly, Jaime Munguia probably got off better considering he wasn't able to recover from the first knockdown. But Tim Zhu, he might
Murdadaliev.
actually,
Yep. He went to
yeah,
the shadow realm, guys.
yeah,
Oh
that
boy. Poor
that
Tinzu.
that was a that was just for the danger of that fight, for the location of where it took place, and the little money that he took for it in order to make it happen. It was just bad management, for being honest.
Yeah, that's what you get from a rookie promoter who doesn't know what the hell they're doing. And so that's why going full circle, that's why no one should fault Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua for not taking that fight against Autistic Power. Immediate rematch. Yeah, I said it. And let's go to the well, this is one that look, I'd be lying if I didn't say I preferred to see Zhilei Zhang versus Martin Bakoli.
Of course.
But instead, though, we're getting Zhilei Zhang, a 5-round fighter, versus Ajit Kabayel. Could this be Ajit Kabayel's, in the immortal words of Emmanuel Stewart, welcome to big time boxing? Or could this be a career turner for both Zhilei Zhang and Ajit Kabayel? Because for the first 5 rounds, this fight is going to be very interesting. Your thoughts, Joey?
I mean, you said it perfectly. For the first 5 rounds, Zhilei Zhang, I would favor him just about against almost every fighter at the heavyweight. He's a great counterpuncher. He has great boxing skills, and he's heavy-handed. The
Yep.
problem is as we just said, he is a front runner in boxing, which pretty much sums up what the 5 round thing that you brought up is. He's a front runner. After that, Zhilei Zhang doesn't have shit for you afterwards, and that's where Ajit Kabayel, being a person who if I recall correctly from the Frank Sanchez fight, having a great gas tank,
Yep.
is going to just absolutely slaughter Zhang if he can't connect with him. So that's a fight for where I would literally say it's 50-50 for first 6 rounds. I'd give Zhang. The next 6 rounds, I'd unquestionably give Caballero. It just depends.
Yep, that's it. I think that was summed up perfectly. And for the first 5, 6 rounds, I'm going to be dialed in. Oh boy, is Ajit Caballero. Is he going to elect to play the long game, or is he going to fall into the trap that most fighters fall into when facing Zhilei Zhang? How is this going to play out? We'll find out, guys, on February 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
But last one, and this is one that is really flying under the radar, but great matchup. Joshua Buatsi versus Callum Smith. Wow. Is this Callum Smith's last stand on the big stage, my friend? And are we going to get the most from him and Buddy McGirt?
Personally, me, just before anything else, before I even give a breakdown, I just want to give a shout out to Joshua Buatsi, because outside of, and intelligently turning down the Dmitry Bivol fight, knowing full well, or at least from his team, knowing that he was not ready for it, he has instead taken on every top contender that the light heavyweight division has thrown at him, from Craig Richards to Willie Hutchinson to Dan Aziz. I mean, you can't say that this guy, and he was willing to fight Anthony Yard. It was Anthony Yard's legal troubles with Frank Warren.
Yep.
Yes, excuse me, with promotional troubles with Frank Warren that deterred that fight from taking place. And instead of fighting Anthony Yard, he is now facing Callum Smith, a former world champion and a man who looked like a monster up until he ran into the real one, which was Better Beef at 175. I love this fight personally.
Yep, I love it too. And once again, this is a real crossroads match for both fighters. This is going to prove to be a very pivotal fight for either guy. May the best man win. I love it. And look, while we have you on the air, Joey, I don't know how much time you have left, but I have to bring this up. It's become common knowledge that Lamont Roach has pulled out of the March fight with Tank Davis.
Really?
Claiming a hand injury. Go ahead.
Wait, when was this reported? I had no knowledge of this.
Well, maybe I shouldn't have said anything. Yeah. I tell you what, but look, it's no, put it this way. It's no surprise that no one wanted to see Lamont Roach.
Yeah.
And with Tank Davis announcing that he only has 3 fights left in his career, who does he fight, though? Because everyone that is suggested and thrown to his handlers, they all want a small fortune to fight Tank Davis. Who the hell does he fight? Do we get a big cash out from William Zepeda? Because let's just face it, it's a much bigger money fight than fighting Shakur Stevenson.
I mean, at this point, because now that Zepeda is available, but I would just God, I don't know. Personally, for me, although Zepeda taking Gervonta Tank Davis does make sense and from a money perspective and even as an opponent, but
he's going to get killed.
Exactly. But I just think it looks bad in the sense that you pulled out of the February 22nd fight, which is literally a week, a week in front, because claiming injury just to return in order to fight Gervonta Tank Davis. I mean, come on, guys.
Well, who does he fight then? Arnold Barbosa?
No, Barboza, from what I heard, there's reports of him fighting Jack Catterall anyway in February.
I've heard about that, but who the hell wants to see that? That's going to be like watching paint dry.
It is, but
styles make fights.
Yeah. I mean, is Edwin De Los Santos still in the division?
Oh boy, that's like watching paint dry part 2.
Well, I think perhaps
two prolific counterpunchers waiting for the other guy to get off first. No, thank you. Like I said, who the hell is Tank Davis going to fight?
Well, one thing that me and
That's
you,
going
Joseph,
to be hold on. That's going to be an attractive B side to sell a pay per view. Let's just face it, guys. That's a part of the problem in finding opposition for Tank Davis. You've got to be able to sell a pay per view because of the astronomical purse that Tank is demanding. Once again, guys, he was getting paid $15 million just to step in the ring for Lamont Roach. So who does he fight?
I mean, that's the thing because his division alone is running very thin. And what makes it even worse is that the people around him are all fighting each other from Shakur and Schofield to Keyshawn and Denise Perinchek.
Guys, in my opinion, and I hear a lot of fans saying, "Oh, it could be Tia." Well, Double L. And he says it could be Tiafimo Joe, and it could be Devin Haney also. But this is why you haven't seen Devin Haney. This is why you haven't seen Tiafimo fight anyone with a pulse, because these idiots consistently price themselves out, thinking that they're worth a lot more than they are. This is why you haven't seen Devin Haney fight Sandor Martin or Liam Perro. And it's why you won't see him fight Richardson Hitchens. Because these idiots would rather sit on the bench or step in the ring with a ham and egger rather than fight to their realistic market value. So, no, you can cross those guys on the list. Now, honestly, I can tell you this. Sid UK, I think, has the beat. I see a rematch with Pitbull Cruz in his future. Your thoughts, Joey?
Oh, Lord. You see, there was a point in time where I actually said, you know what, that's not the worst option. But considering that the man who beat Pitbull Cruz is supposed to be on that undercard, as you reported, it doesn't look good. And on top of
Well,
that,
go ahead, sir.
on top of that, I mean, at this point, nobody nobody's demanding that fight. These are Gervonta Tank Davis's last three fights. I doubt anybody wants to see him take place in a rematch unless it's Ryan Garcia, which would be an ultra lucrative fight.
Well, I think, in my opinion, a rematch with Ryan Garcia would be lucrative. A rematch with Pitbull Cruz would be the second most lucrative. I don't care what Shakur fans think. He doesn't bring a whole lot of dollars to the table unless Turkey Al Sheikh is funding it. In my opinion, that's exactly who he fights in two of his next three fights. Pitbull Cruz, then Ryan Garcia. I think Ryan Garcia, for that fight, I think Tank would be willing to move up to a catchweight between 40 and 47 because his options are limited in terms of dollars. Once again, guys, you're going to have to sell a pay-per-view. And we've all seen, even with the assistance of David Benavidez on the co-main event, he doesn't sell without an attractive B-side or dance partner. So once again, who does Tank Davis fight? And that's the conundrum, guys. Once again, that's why we always lean on the business of boxing on this channel. Because it has to make business sense, guys.
Speaking of A sides, Joseph, what I wanted to ask, who do you think is going to be from most likely options and who are available? Who do you think is going to be Canelo Alvarez's next opponent coming in May?
Coming in May, I think, oh boy, guys, and do not kill the messenger here. I think, and I almost know I would be willing to bet my house that it's Jermall Charlo trying to avenge his little brother's loss.
But isn't Jamal Charlo also taking place on the March 1st undercard of Gervonta Tank Davis?
Is he?
I
No,
mean,
that's Jermell. Jermell
no, no.
is. Jermall was slated, but you can't tell me he would ditch that to take on the Canelo assignment.
I hope he would ditch it considering the horrible opponent that I heard that he had lined up for him.
Yeah. Yeah. You talking about Cornflake LaManna?
Yes, that's exactly who I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, look, he would dump cornflakes in the trash to get that opportunity that he's been clamoring for since he was a middleweight. And since, keep in mind, he's been wanting that when he wanted that fight at 160, when the WBC, how do I put this without shitting all over Mauricio Sula? I guess there's no way. Conveniently sent Canelo and gave him that franchise tag. Right?
Correct.
Jamal has been wanting that for that long. And he's deserved that fight back then. Now,
No one
shit.
wants to see that.
No one wants to see it, but they're going to get it. They're going to get it in May.
Yeah.
And guess what? It's going to sell. Because they will use the angle of him using or trying to avenge little brother's loss.
But I thought the reason as to why, like, because from what I recall, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Joseph, that fight was supposed to take place in May of this year, but PBC refused to pay for it because it was based off of
No,
how
no, no. That had everything to do with, and once again, I can reveal the curtain because it's already come and gone. Even Coach Ronnie didn't want me to reveal that because Jamal Charlo was going through some personal issues
see.
and was trying to reconcile with his wife. That's why he gave the assignment to his little brother. Because yes, he was supposed to get the fight in May. But he was using the priority of reconciling with his wife and his kids. As that was his first priority. And so he gave the assignment to his little brother. And boy, Coach Ronnie was pissed. I can tell you this now because I recall the conversation that we had about it, and I couldn't believe it. And idiots like Steve Kim said, this is an upgrade. And I said, no, it's not. No, it's not. Because he's not going to come to fight. He's going to come to survive. And I'll tell you what the catalyst was. He was there ringside for his brother Errol Spence's fight with Terrence Crawford. And he saw what happened to Errol Spence Jr., his stablemate. And he goes, you know what? I'm not going to end up like that. I'm just make a run to the finish line. But I'm not going to get embarrassed and knocked out like that. That's what happened, guys. That's what happened. Because Charlo, yeah, he was in over his head against Canelo Alvarez, jumping up to 168.
Yeah,
After
jumping up to
spending his entire career at 54.
Jumping up to 168, coming off of an incredibly long layoff as well as an injury. I mean, it just didn't seem possible.
Yep. But then shitbags like Steve Kim, who looks like I played golf on his face, insisted that this was an upgrade.
It wasn't. I mean, it was during that time when I heard reports of Canelo versus Jamal Charlo. I was actually interested at that point in time because Jamal was not off of too long of a layoff. He wasn't coming
Yep.
off of any injuries. He would be moving up simply 1 weight class. It seemed realistic, and it was a fight that people had wanted for many years. Nobody was clamoring
That's right.
for Canelo and Jamal Charlo. That wasn't what was being discussed for so many years. So
Well, now you're going to get it this May, brother, or next May. How do you like that?
you see, the worst part about it is, it's like deep down, part of me is still curious because of the name of it, Canelo Alvarez versus Jamal. There was part of me that wanted this fight. So part of me is curious, but then the other part of me that's actually, has a brain, is aware of the fact this is a shit fight at this point in both of their careers.
Yep. But
And that's how it's gonna sell.
Yeah, but hey, to the delight of Jesus M, I'm going to say this. That's what you guys have to expect for the remainder of Canelo Alvarez's career. He is not interested in having a torchbearer fight, in fighting the best opposition available. He's never going to move back up to 75. You can forget about that. And he's going to fight the Jamal Charlos of the world, the Christian Mbelis of the world, the guys who are not going to push him to the brink.
And
That's
I
it.
mean,
So that's what you guys have to expect for the remainder of Canelo Alvarez's career.
but the $1 million question I want to know is if he's not worried about fights pushing him to the brink, as long as he has somewhat of an advantage, why doesn't he fight Terrence Crawford?
Because if he struggles, look, I will say this now, because he doesn't have to, because he can still make a lot of money. And look, I don't know if you know this, but Al Heyman, I like to thank Al Heyman for he gave him basically the way he was able to. Have you heard Canelo say, I want to finish my career? If I started my career with Al Heyman, I would be a lot more
Yeah,
successful.
yeah,
Yeah,
I've
it's
heard that.
because he's giving him the Floyd Mayweather deal. He's getting 80% of everything. He is the lead promoter. He is getting everything. The live gate. He is getting the merch. He's getting the concessions. He's getting everything. That's how Al Heyman is able to work with Canelo. And Canelo is locked in, lock, stock, and barrel, and he has bought everything that Al Heyman is selling. And that is the reality, guys. That's why you're seeing, you know what? It doesn't matter who I fight. I don't have to fight anyone as even challenging as Terrence Crawford stylistically. I don't have to fight him. And I don't need Turkey Al-Sheikh to make money because he's got the Floyd Mayweather deal from Al Heyman.
Me personally, although I know there's a lot of people clamoring for that fight simply due to the status of both of these fighters, the caliber of both of these fighters, that is a fight that I, for the longest, had no interest in whatsoever.
None.
Uh,
Zero.
no. So that was a fight. If Canelo Alvarez never took it, that I could live with that personally, especially since Terrence Crawford. Now, the question I'm wondering is if Crawford does not get the Canelo Alvarez fight, if he has exhausted all of his options, and it seems little to none that fight will take place, does he intend to compete at 54, or does he just retire and hang it up?
Look, in my opinion, if he doesn't fight Canelo, you're going to see Terrence Crawford just ride off into the sunset like an old cowboy.
Which makes sense.
Because for the money that he's requesting, this is why no promoters want to work with him in the States. His only lifeline right now is Turkey Al-Sheikh. And look, you know how much he got paid for the Madrimov fight against a guy who couldn't sell out my living room on a Saturday night?
Around 17
Take a
million?
guess. I told you that, didn't I?
You sure did.
17 million he got for that. So how much you think? And once again, Canelo is a smart enough businessman and is experienced enough to know, hey, do I really want to negotiate with that pain in the ass? With that cabron? Dude, imagine a guy as delusional as Terrence Crawford demanding A-side negotiations. Oh, you know what? I need to put a weight restriction where he can't balloon up to 180 on the day of the fight. Canelo will tell him to go fuck himself. He'll tell him the same thing he told Boo Boo Andrade, right? Hey, man, get the fuck out of here, man. He doesn't want to have to deal with that shit because that's what's coming if you negotiate with Terrence Crawford. Other than Devin Haney, he is the most delusional, or other than Devin Haney and Teofimo Lopez, he is the most delusional and the most biggest pain in the ass to negotiate with. This is why, in my opinion, you are going to see him retire rather than fighting anyone. Any of the badasses at 54 and anyone outside of Canelo Alvarez. You're going to see him retire.
As unfortunate as they may be not to see him compete with a super, super, with those stacked weight class that is 154 at the current moment, I look at fighters like Terrence Crawford and Alexander who's cemented legacies in their late 30s as well. If they choose to retire, is it really all that surprising? We want to see them continue because they could still fight at the elite level, but is it are we really going to judge fighters for leaving at a certain point in time while keeping all their bearings intact and making the most amount of money possible? I mean,
You look, you that in reality, no. But when you're dealing with a guy who's delusional as Terrence Crawford, yeah, you can fault him because he could have easily taken on Virgil Ortiz. He could have easily taken on Sergey Boachek, but he's not going to because it doesn't yield the kind of dollars that Terrence Crawford is demanding. He, in his mind, he thinks he's as big of an attraction as Canelo Alvarez. He thinks he's a bigger attraction than Tank Davis. This is why, yeah, this is why you're not seeing him fight Jaron Boots Ennis. It's why you're not going to see him fight any of the badasses at 54. And if Canelo doesn't want to have anything to do with him, you're going to hear him retire. Look, this is our last comment because we're almost 90 minutes in. And Joey, I want to thank you for being my guest on the show, man. Great stuff from you, brother. And guys, if you want to hear more from Joey, please go subscribe to Boxing Gems and please go become a member of their Patreon where you hear all of this breakdown from our brother Joey. Here's the head of the Canelo fan club UK chapter, my brother Sid. Thank you for hanging with us, brother Sid. Love you, man. He says, celebrate Canelo's exit and let him cherry pick and retire gracefully. King Canelo is a legend. That's from the UK chapter, Joey.
Look, I've said this before. If you don't want to compete at the top level, either do one of two things: either drop the belts or retire.
Yep.
It's that simple.
Yep. Quit log jamming the effing division.
Yeah.
It's very simple. And once again, you can't fault Canelo because he's doing this because he can. He can still make the money. He's still the face of boxing in North America. But you know what? Get rid of the damn titles. Quit log jamming the division. Give these opportunities to hungry young fighters. Not name Jaime Munguia or not name Edgar Berlanga. That's it. It's very simple. Otherwise, hey, off you go. Do what you do. Do what you do, man. Make that money. Canelo's one of the only guys who can demand that kind of money and deliver. But for the other guys, why are you demanding so much? You haven't done shit. Devin Haney's a perfect example. Teofimo Lopez is a perfect example.
Jesus.
Cut the shit. Go ahead, Joey.
Tio especially, but no, I mean, when I saw the numbers that Canelo Alvarez did with both McGee and Berlanga, I told everybody, I'm like, you're never going to get that Benavidez fight because he's proven that he could sell without them. There's too many people that tune in to watch Canelo Alvarez, regardless of whether he's fighting top opposition or not. He's too popular. He's the biggest cash cow. The same can't be applied to other quote-unquote cash cows, but Canelo is one of those few exceptions.
Uh-oh. 93, thank you for hanging with us. The antiquated model of defending titles and upholding the sanctity of the sport doesn't sell anymore. Jake Paul versus Tank, 2025. You know what? Let's hope you're wrong. Yeah. Hawker Mustang, well, thank you for joining us and hanging with us, brother. Merry Christmas. Joey, your parting shots for our listening audience. And thank you once again for gracing us with your presence. Tell everyone where they can find you, please.
You guys can find me on a YouTube channel called Boxing Gems, where me, the creator himself, also, like as I just stated, as well as another analyst by the name of Jacob, all analyze, review, and just make film studies so you guys can see either future fights, previous fighters, etc. It's if you want to get to know the technical side of boxing, there's no better place to be, and Joseph can vouch for that.
I concur. That's why you'll often hear me at least once a month on their panel, because once again, I know that there are other intangibles besides tape study, but that's the most fun, though, isn't it? To talk about?
Absolutely. I mean, like Joseph, before you even were there, so we were doing fantasy betting, and I've won consistently 4 times in a row, and I can tell you right now, I have not done a single minute of film study winning these picks. I have not. I've actually looked at the intangibles, how many times their opponent has been knocked out, whether they have been knocked out, when is the last time they competed, who was the A side, stuff like this when making these picks. Because at this point in time, doing film study, although it is effective, this is probably going to be more efficient in this regard.
So that's another reason to pay for the membership and get on their Patreon page, because yeah, it's the least expensive handicapper that I know. Always great stuff, Joey. And
Likewise.
guys, if you missed any part of the show, go ahead and rewind, or it's going to be back, or it's going to be on my channel. Yeah, for the rest of the year. So on behalf of the always insightful coach Joey, I'm Joseph Herron. You've been listening to Warwick Boxing. Have a great evening, everybody.
Radvashan Holdings proudly presents Warwick Radio Chats with ring announcer Joseph Herron.